the main difference between a human and AI right now? Yeah, well, I think it's easy. It's just like not really, not enough context. Still, it's very limited in terms of context and strategic thinking. Yeah, it's lack of the strategic thinking.
Welcome to the King Dems podcast, where we share the stories of extraordinary people and dissect hot, relevant topics that shape our world. From visionary leaders to trailblazing creatives, we uncover the mindset, strategy, and grit behind greatness. Whether it's business, culture, or personal growth, we ask the real questions. This isn't just conversation, it's transformation. The King Dems podcast. Your next breakthrough starts here.
Music licensing reimagined.
We are live, ladies and gentlemen. You're once again welcome to the King Dems podcast. And today I have with me fighting out of Texas, United States, by way of Moscow, Russia. Make welcome the one and only Stan Sakinian. How are you, Stan?
Hold on, I'm 41 years old. Yeah.
Whoa, 41 years. Oh, okay, interested. Whoa, the man, the myth, and the legend. Let us meet the man behind the metrics. How would you describe yourself?
I'm a financial guy. I'm a financial guy that's passionate about corporate financials, companies' financials, and I like dig into the businesses. So I would describe me as a financial nerd that like working with the entrepreneurs and business owners.
Oh, wow. Okay, finance guy. I like to call myself a finance guy as well, So finance guy beats finance guy.
Yeah.
Because for me, I have a first degree in economics and a chartered accountant, what you guys call a CPA in the US, and I did work with two of the big four accounting firms, PwC and KPMG. So pretty much we crunch numbers for a living. But for you grew up in Moscow, right? From
Yeah.
the Moscow
Yeah.
suburb, but now to managing over $450 million, not just dollars, US dollars. And let's not be mistaken, in capital. Your story is powerful, but let's rewind. What drove a young man at 15 to pursue finance so fiercely?
Yeah, so like my first love was with the financials when I kind of like look at the business magazine first, like when I was like 15 years old, and I find out like there's an entire world of entrepreneurs, business owners that like making like these businesses and making a lot of money. Just like I realized when I was like 50 years old, it's like it's the thing that I want to do. And then I kind of like thinking, okay, how I can start, and I was really good with numbers, and I was thinking, okay, it's probably I can go to work at the bank at the lending department, and I will see the bank and how banks works, and then like see the businessmen, because like when you issue a credit, you meet like business owners, you understand the business models, you asking like all those questions, and actually it's kind of pan out as I kind of like imagine. I imagine that I will meet businessmen, I will see like the financials, and then I learn from them, and it's how it happens. So my first position was that like a regional Moscow bank, like a corporate lending department, and then I kind of like grew my career, and yeah, I became like a senior partner when I was 27, not 29. We kind of like we start doing mezzanine financing in Russia. We were like one of the first who started doing like a mezzanine financing, and like the structure was a little bit kind of sophisticated, but yeah, it was a really really interesting time.
Wow, so you rise into senior partner at the age of 29 is quite a big achievement. But yet, your pandemic pivot led to something even more meaningful. So what happened in that season and what reshaped your purpose?
Yeah, so I kind of like was dreaming to start my hedge funds. I read these books about like Warren Buffett and all these hedge fund managers, and
Warren Buffett.
yeah,
He inspires a
yeah,
lot of people.
yeah. And I really want like kind of like start investing and set up a hedge fund. And it was a like long idea. And then I kind of like pulled the trigger. I decided to leave my full-time job, leave Moscow, go to the New York because New York is the best place where you need to set up a hedge fund. And so I moved my family, and I had a plan. So I have like savings, and I had a plan like I start hedge fund, and I will live for a while on my savings, and then like kind of like it starts making some money. But actually, it's turned out that like we couldn't open even the bank account. When we opened the bank account for the hedge fund, we couldn't secure enough investors. We just get a few millions under management. And it's just like, I know everything is just falling apart. I'm kind of start running out of the cash, and it's just like my savings like depleting at a very high pace, especially in New York. And then the
Uh-huh.
pandemic hit, and I just like so we went like to Virginia and like other states like during the pandemic, just like not to be in New York. And I just was thinking, okay, what do I do next? It's just like I need to do something. And at that time, I felt like my financial knowledge and expertise is kind of like, I know everyone kind of knows financials, because for me it's kind of like very easy. It's just like I don't think it's a very hard knowledge. But then you need like, I don't know, 10 years of experience to get this. But then but then but then I kind of I was approached by my friend's father that was like in fundraising, and that was during the pandemic. And like he asked like, can you help them to review like the financial documents that they kind of prepare for the fundraising? And I look at this, and they said like it's the best like financial model that they ever like built. And when I look at this, it was like actually one of the worst that I ever seen. So it was like completely like like the first thing
Complete
I told them,
opposite.
yeah, I told them like never send this model to anyone again. Like just like don't send it to any potential investors. Like because I think it's better to say that you don't have any financial model than send this one. And yeah, and I just like say like, okay, I can help you like to rebuild the financial model and the presentation, and like charge them annual like a 2,500 or something. And then they agree, and I was like, okay, it seems like there's some work for me. I didn't think about it like in this way. And I just like, so I help them, and like they like secure some funding. And then I start working with other kind of like more emerging companies, like startup companies, helping with the mostly with the fundraising. And then I realized that there's actually huge market, kind of like at that time it didn't call a fractional CFO, but like when you're acting as a kind of like a in a CFO role, but like in part-time capacity. And it was great. So like, but like it took me like a few years actually figure out that there's a market for this service, but you need to target companies with the high revenues. Like right now I'm working with company with at least like 3 million of revenue. And so it's just like kind of like found this market, and moving from the startups to the, and this idea with the hedge fund. So this fund, it's actually right now is shutting down, and I left it to my partner. And yeah, so this idea didn't work out, but actually I'm really happy, because I think what I'm doing right now, I'm really helping a lot of entrepreneurs with their financials and running their business. And I see like a lot of them don't really understand like financials very deeply. They don't track them, especially in the very beginning, like first time founders, first time business owners. They don't go deep. So I see them like kind of like I create the difference if they working with me or they don't working with me. Like I've seen like so many stories when people just like completely failed, and I know file a personal bankruptcy because they just like didn't understand financials and didn't pay attention to their financials.
Hmm. So you founded SOSO to help entrepreneurs stay in business longer, like not just to survive, but to thrive.
Yeah.
And what's the biggest financial misconception that keeps good businesses in a state of crisis?
Yeah, I think the main what I see the biggest things, like most of the founders or like business owners, they think that they need money, like they need capital, additional capital. Like you hear it all the time. Oh, we just need to secure the funding, or we need to find investors. But most of the cases, if you're not gonna launch, I don't know, another, I don't know, the competitor of OpenAI, or like I know Uber, like in the very beginning for most of the businesses, you don't really need like a lot of money, or like almost no. Like you just need to find like a few customers that are ready to pay you enough to cover your direct cost and like your overhead. And I think like what most founders, like business owners, that don't really understand, like they either like don't have enough customers just like to cover like the expenses, or they don't charge enough like to cover the direct cost, and they thinking they need more money and then I get more customers. But if your margins are not in place, you will drive more customers. It's just like you still have no results. And I think it's like I see it's like over and over again. It's just like I don't know. It's sometimes it's pathetic. Like I meet people that running like a consulting business, like implementation of, for example, of financial systems. It's like it's very lucrative business. It's like your margins is really good. You just find a client, take an advance payment, and start working on this implementation. And just like literally, it's like first of all, it's very simple business. Second, you really like get some cash flow upfront, and then you get the rest in the end or somewhere in between, and you like your margin so high that it's just enough. And I even like from these business owners I hear like, oh, I need like more capital to hire the team and so on. Like you don't really need the team, you just need like to get more clients, keep your margins, understand ways your margins that will like can help you to grow, like in hire the team, and that's it. So I think it's the biggest thing that I see over and over.
You have worked with companies from $3 million to $35 million in revenue. So what's the pattern of financial mistakes you have seen these set of entrepreneurs make over time?
Yeah, I see like the when they goes like beyond a certain limit, like of 2 millions, 3 millions, they really kind of like if they don't really hire someone, they kind of lose tracking like what is happening, like where like what's the margins, like how like I know they look at the bank account and for example they see like there's a substantial amount and they think they're doing okay, but this can be just advance payments from clients, but they need to fulfill they need to deliver a product or a service, and they need like money to do this, and they don't really like follow it. They don't really calculate their working capital. They like don't really like if they don't have a financial procedures in place. They kind of like I think it's all falling apart, and they just completely losing like the sight of what's happening in terms of money. And I think like another thing I see over and over is like they think if they hire an accountant that they financial in place, but it's not. It's just like it's not true. Like it's 100% is not true. First of all, you need to work with an accountant. You need to provide like all the kind of like descriptions of all transactions. You need to if there's no anyone like as a financial person on your team, like it's one of the founders or like business owners doing like this review of the accounting, and they usually don't do this or like just quick look at I don't know like once in I don't know a year like before filing the taxes, and it doesn't work. Like I can tell you, I work even like with the most professional accountants that like with very sophisticated things. You still need to review their works because they can book certain transactions in a way that doesn't reflect the business purpose of these transactions, and then it's going like it's become a mess, and then you kind of like even if you have some financials, but they like these financials don't represent like what's actually happened in the history, and then like you can project anything out of this. So yeah, it's kind of like yeah, it's what I see across all companies. They don't have any financial person on their team.
I appreciate what you said, especially with misrepresentation, it leads to like a lot of adjustments, especially if you're going to bring in auditors to audit the financials. And if you are not producing a true unfair financial statement, you will be misleading the users of financial information because users of financial information make informed decisions, right? Based on the financial statements. So it's always important to ensure that the financial statements actually depict a true and fair view of the financial position and the financial performance of the entity within that period of time. So, but for you as a fractional CFO, right? What is your approach, and how does it differ from the traditional finance consulting or in-house
Yeah, I think like my main approach is kind of like challenging the founders. I think like it's super important, especially if you're fractional. It's kind of like you should be an authority for them. Otherwise, it's gonna be kind of it's like I have this approach. If they like, it's up to them to make a final decision. It's like it's their call, it's their business, it's their money. It's like it's their life on the line, not mine. But I will put like any argument that I can put if I see there's something's wrong is going on. I will like kind of like in detail explain, and if it requires like multiple calls, like with different stakeholders, like trying to explain it, I don't know, in pictures or in memes, like what is happening. I will explain and try like to deliver this message that like if you continue, I know, to do this X or Y or Z, it will end up in something where you don't want to be. I think it's the most important, and what I see, especially in ones like accountants, like they start offering like the fractional CFO service, and they just not to build like I can tell you, even like not really every CFO like not really built like to go kind of like arguing with the founders or business owners. Like you need to be very direct and honest and tell me what is wrong. And I think it's the biggest part of my approach. And another one is just like helping them to get to reach their goals. It's like what they want to achieve. It's going to be, I don't know, they want to buy a house, or they want to pay for the college of the kids, or they want to sell a business in 5 years. So whatever is goal, like just helping them and prepare the business in terms of financials and how it should be structured, and what's the approach should be like to achieve this goal. Because if you're building it just to get like, I don't know, 500,000 dividends every year, it's going to be completely different from, I know, selling this business for X amount of money in 5 years. So it can be different strategy, and especially in terms of financial.
So let's talk about building infallible businesses. So you often talk about building infallible businesses. So
Mhm.
what exactly does that look like, and how is it different from profitable or scalable businesses?
Yeah, and my approach in followable business is I kind of like from my career, I identified like the main reasons why business kind of like falling, and most of these you can at least mitigate risk. Because like first of all, I know like the easiest one, and these are just like few customers that the company serves, and for example, like one customers, I don't know, take like, I don't know, 30% share of the revenue. So if this customer leaves tomorrow, a company gonna be in a really bad shape, right? But you can prepare for this. First of all, like if you acknowledge this, you can trying to justify this. Second, like you need to put a kind of like a mitigation plan. What's gonna happen if this client will leave tomorrow? Like, okay, you will have like 30% less revenue. Like what's going to be gross profit, what's going to be an operating profit, like what's going to be the cash flow if this client leaves, and what you need to do to adjust to these new like conditions. And so when I look at this, I say like, okay, probably right now you have like 5 employees, but to prepare like for this scenario, you probably need to change one full-time employees to the contractor. And when if it happens, like if you lose this biggest customer, you can you can reduce the workload for this contractor, or like reduce completely. You don't need to pay these contractors because there's less work because like this large client leaves. So like it's kind of like a preparation of like what can happen, and then you kind of like you are not just kind of waiting if it happens and then you do something. But it's also very important, because what I see, like, something bad's happen, but you have a great team, you cannot fire anyone, you kind of like you avoid like these hard conversations. You love these people, I know you've been working with them more than 5 years, you like a family, I know it's 5 people, you think it's like deep morale. And what I see, like, oh, like what's founders think, I will find another client, just like substitute this losing revenue. And days are like 1 month pass, 2 month pass, 3 month pass, like they losing money. then they're running out of the cash, and business founders just like postponing this harsh decision, like to cut I don't know, like 2 persons from his team. And I understand it's like it's like emotionally it's very difficult. But even if you think about it, it's like, okay, what's I gonna do? What I need to do if I lose this biggest customer? It's already kind of changed his mind, because he was like, okay, he will kind of like at least start thinking about this and kind of acknowledge that if I'm losing this customer, probably I need to let go like a few employees or one employee, or like, I don't know, something else, or like, I know we need to kind of like move, I don't know, like some expenses, or stop doing, I don't know, this like kind of like, I don't know, corporate tours or something, right? It's just like start thinking in the right directions already help them. And if they have a mitigation plan, it's already kind of like, it's not just about thinking, if X happens, then I will do like these XYZ actions. And it's what I think kind of most of the business can be really kind of like really resistant if they think about it and prepare those plans. Like in another example, I don't know, like let's say you have like a largest supplier that provide, I don't know, 80% of all your cost of goods sold, and like what's happened if they increase price, like, I don't know, 30%, like overnight, right? Like now we have like tariffs, right? And like what will happen? But you can think about it not when it happens, but like you can think about it in advance, right? Like, okay, if it happens, what's it gonna do? Do I have any backlog of potential suppliers that can substitute this, or at least kind of like take some weight, or like can I find like a substitute component that I use right now, but I can probably use another one that right now probably 10% more expensive. But if like this supplier increase price, so I can switch to this component, right? So like those things just really help. But like founders don't really think about it. They like they usually really optimistic people, right? Like it's why they build businesses, and it's kind of like they don't really want to think about any negative scenario that can happen. But when you look at the business, I trying to define like those vulnerable points, like it's either, I don't know, like diversification. So revenue, it can be customer acquisition cost, it can be, I don't know, one lead channel that can help produce the same results. It can be, I don't know, like a few employees that generate, I don't know, 80% of sales. So these are sometimes, like most of the time, like those vulnerable points, and you just need to identify them and then think about mitigation plan, how you kind of like, is it not completely eliminate this risk, but how you will prepare if it goes badly.
Uh, I appreciate you talking about the tough decisions to be made, right? But remember, what's the major difference between humans and AI?
The main difference between a human and AI right now,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, well, I think it's easy. It's just like not really, not enough context. Still, it's very limited in terms of context and strategic thinking. Yeah, it's a lack of the strategic thinking. But I think it's gonna be better. But I think it's still like in 5 years, AI can substitute like a low value task, but it's still gonna be strategy, and a certain part of creativity is still gonna be done by human beings.
Okay, but one major difference is the fact that AI is able to make decisions without emotions, but humans are always locked with their emotions. You talk about letting people go. It's not so easy for founders,
Yeah,
especially if it's a community feel, a family feel.
it's true. It's true that yeah, AI is yeah, I at least right now, AI doesn't have all the context, especially like to make strategic decisions. So it's hard. Yeah, but the emotional component, it's good and bad, right? Like for example, like in sales, it can help like to close a big deal, right? That just based more on emotions, and I don't know if AI can kind of like pull triggers on certain emotions to close the deal. Yeah, probably at some point in the future.
So how do you navigate those difficult decisions, in terms
Uh,
of the advisory to those companies?
You mean like a strategic decisions?
Yes, difficult strategic decisions.
It's I trying to get like first of all, I trying to understand like the competitive landscape and like what they want, what they really want to achieve, and then just like okay, like sit together and say like okay, like what's gonna be what's gonna be the result if we like make a certain decision. I know, let's say plan A, and what can wrong, what can be a kind of a good outcome of this plan, and like just look at this and then discuss like pros and cons, and then we'll kind of like look at the plan B and like also discuss pros and cons. So I kind of like looking from, I think like I'm the one that provide less emotional things, right? Like I think like founders, they're really emotionally tied to their business and everything. I'm kind of looking to, like from more objective lenses, and like and I'm looking mostly for numbers, and I speak in terms of numbers. Like I say, like they say, like I don't know, like I know recently we had these discussions, like what's the maximum amount we should pay for a lease, like to open new stores, and it's just like yeah, we can overpay like a certain amount, but we like I know shouldn't go beyond this because otherwise it affects like return on capital, return on our investments, and what we actually budget and what we discussed before. So let's stick to this, and it's kind of like yeah, I think like the general framework helps to make a strategic decisions, but I just like provide guidance, and yeah, and it's the business owners, they call, but helping them with all this data.
So it's basically their call to make, but you are able to navigate them and make them see the merits, the demerits of, the merits of taking that advice and of course the demerits of not taking the advice. But let's talk about the methodology. So when you step into a business, what's your financial triage checklist, right? So what are the things you scan first and why do you do that?
You mean for my business or the for the client's business?
For your clients? Yes, for your clients.
The methodology is just like yeah, as I said, like first of all, look at the personal goals and business goals, because usually it's kind of like it's all goes together. It's kind of like it's difficult to decouple them. I try and really understand like those goals, but it's kind of like well known in our fractional CFO space. Owners can say like that they want like X amount of revenue, or I don't know, they want like to reach like these things, but then they start like going deeper and asking why do you want like 10 million of revenue? Like what you really want from the business. And when we get like to 10 million, what's next? Like what's do the next? Like do you want to stay as a CEO, or you want to step down, and so on? So we're kind of going for this kind of strategic business goals slash personal goals. Then like we're starting from okay, you want like this goal, I know, let's say like I know, sell business in 5 years. Like what's we need to do? Like we prepare like this financial strategic plan where we're looking, okay, given where is the business right now and all the inputs like the margins, customer acquisition costs, like all the direct costs, all the overheads, what we have right now, what we need to do to get to the point where the business owners want to see it. And then it's just like, okay, it's like, what do we need to do? Like, do we need to get more debt? Do we need to get more equity? Or probably we need less debt. Probably we need like, I don't know, to repay some of that. Or probably like we have no debt and we don't need any debt. We just need like, I don't know, to invest more in the customer acquisition. Or probably we need like to invest less in customer acquisition because like we don't need to grow as much as possible. We need like extract more cash flow from the business and optimize. So we kind of optimize certain things, and it's probably we need to invest less. So we're kind of like preparing this strategic plan, and then from strategic plan we just prepare like a short term budget, like I don't know, for 6 months, 4 months, 1 year. It depends on the business cycle, and just stick to this budget and see like month to month what is changing, how our forecast DS like actual numbers, and what's happening in the business. Is there any kind of like serious considerable changes that we need to implement in our long-term strategic plan?
Huh. You did speak briefly about debt, right? And that determines how leveraged an entity would be.
Mhm.
So from being a credit analyst, to your job in private equity and to a multi-strategy fund managing that, you have lived through the finance trenches, you've seen it all, done it all. But what is it that entrepreneurs don't understand the most about how the money world works? You would agree with me that a lot of entrepreneurs see debt as a bad thing. But really, what else is it that they misunderstand about how the money works and it's common?
Yeah, I think like what I've seen, if I look at the like I've seen more than I don't know 1,000 businesses, like small, average, and large. And if I look at the biggest reasons why they I don't know defaulted or bankruptcy or they completely failed, if they reach a certain point, it's usually dead. Because they as like what's happening like uh, during the economic boom, when I know the economy is growing, they like their revenue is growing, and usually the margins is also improving, and they get kind of okay, so everything is good, we need to grow even faster, we need to get that, like there are multiple opportunities on the market, we need to capture them, and they're getting that, and even like some of them just like basically over leverage. I know they go like, I think like when you go beyond like I know 6 EBITDA, it's like it's already kind of like over leverage, you have like too much debt. And even if you don't go over leverage, like I've seen stories when you have, I don't know, like manageable debt, like I know 4 EBITDA. But and another thing is actually like during the economic expansion, this debt is cheap. Usually the interest rate is low and the debt is low, risk is low, like banks see less defaults and the interest rate, they competing for deals and they kind of like lowering their rate. But when you like face the recession, like there's two things happening. Actually, things happening at the same time. Your revenue starts falling, your margins start falling. So I know you're losing like 30% of revenue, but you don't losing like 30% of your EBITDA. You're losing more than 50% because your margin is also going down. Like the market becomes like more competitive. You need to reduce the price or like certain cost increased, and it's just like you're losing. And then on top of that, banks usually increase the especially if it's like a floating rate on your debt, is like your interest rate is going way higher. And I've seen that it just like these kind of like factors, like if you're really good in negotiation and your financial institutions, your banks or like your lenders can discuss like restructuring, like it's kind of good outcome, you just restructuring and waiting for the better times, and then you kind of like reduce your debt. But I've seen like really good stable businesses because they will like kind of like leverage it up to I don't know 4 EBITDA during the recessions. They just like I don't know fail, bankruptcy, or they sold the business for just like a very small amount. And yeah, I think like the debt that is a really good instrument. But again, like what I said, like this infallible framework, you need to play out the scenario when you take the debt, like what's gonna happen if your revenue reduce substantially, if your margins reduce, like where you gonna are you will be able like to serve the debt and stick to the repayment schedule that you have right now. If the answer is yes, you can take that. That that can be, it can be is a good thing, but and you can grow faster, but you need to be really diligent. And another thing with the debt, I think like it's happening for smaller companies. They don't have a proper financials. They don't really understand what's happening in terms of financials. As
Uh-huh.
I mentioned before, like they have like this an accountant, but they speak to them I know once a year. Like they don't really, and then they give like these financials to the bankers, and bankers can make like a wrong decision based on these financials. But you're actually state of your financials is can be way worse than like what the accountant prepares. And you don't know what's happening in your business in terms of financials. Yeah, so it's kind of like I think two things that you need to consider before taking any debt. you need to have a proper financials before you're taking any debt.
That is well said. Proper financials before taking that. Right, ensure to monitor the leverage, right, so that you don't go beyond um the standard of say for EBITDA, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yes, so that way you're not overly leveraged. So, your experience across Russia, Europe, and the US, how's that shaped your financial worldview and like what insights from the global markets and not just global markets, the global market leaders of the US, right?
I think I think
Have you gained?
I think the US market is the most developed in terms of financial instruments, investors, and
Uh-huh.
so on. So
Uh-huh.
it's like it's clear, and I think like the risk tolerance is higher. So I think it's kind of like embedded in DNA of the country, and you can see it's like there's just like so many instruments, so many kind of like new financing options, and so on. And I think like Europe is just in terms of their approach, like way more conservative and
Uh-huh.
it's just, yeah, I think it's just, yeah, it's kind of like the mentality. Of course, there is, because like the economy is not comparable, right? Like the US is the largest economy in the world. But even like if you look at certain approaches, I think like European financials and lenders, they just kind of like way more conservative.
The Washington Post called you an AI super user. What does that mean in your day-to-day financial work?
Yeah, I'm embracing AI and I just I think like people kind of like into kind of spectrums the AI. I believe AI will just like change everything just in a few months, or like others think like AI just kind of like just like this meaningless innovation. So I kind of use AI every day, and I know like all drawbacks and why it's not really good, but I also it helps me a lot. And I can tell you that in terms of financials, right now it's already really good with analyzing the data. It's not
Sure.
still not really good with the producing new data. For example, I use it a lot for financial forecast, and it's not really good. It's kind of like you need to work a lot. It's not like you just like put a certain inputs and then you get like a perfect forecast. No, it doesn't work like that. But in terms of analyzing data, it's really good. It's helping like to spot like, I don't know, seasonality, certain things, just write like this simple financial analysis and like, yeah, like give certain advices or like if like finding like you upload the general ledger and finding is like double spending, double transactions, or like this kind of like I don't know misstatements and so on. So it's really good. But yeah, in terms of producing something, even like reconciling kind of like an accounting work, it's still kind of lacking. You need to review it, and it does make mistakes, and it doesn't produce consistent results. So I think it's very important, especially for corporates. Like I use the same chart, the same prompt, the same structure of the file, and it cannot produce the same results like month over month. Yeah, I think it's why it's struggling. But I believe that like accounting is gonna be replaced by AI for I don't know for 80% of their work right now, because a lot of this just reconciliation, just like have one Excel file and have another Excel file, and we need to reconcile, I know, this revenue, these expenses, these certain things. And I think AI eventually is going to be really good at this.
Interesting. It's really interesting to see the potentials of AI. Yeah, like you rightly said, it's quite good with processing historical information, but not very good at processing forward-looking information right now. But I think there's hope, a lot of hope for the future because of the accelerated speed at which the machine learning takes place.
Yeah.
Yeah, for these large language models. But talking about the human side of the data, during the pandemic, you went from 150K to zero USD, and you had to rebuild with your family in a foreign country. What did that teach you about the emotional weight of money, and how has that shaped how you have served your client now?
Yeah, I kind of like I think like I built resilience, and I kind of like understand like entrepreneurs, founders way better, because I think it's a very, very different mentality than you full-time employee and then you on your own. It's just like it's kind of like it's completely different. And I think like it's a good thing. Like, people think that if they leave their job, like I know they disappointed with their boss or they disappointed with the procedures in the companies. It's like when you meet people with full time jobs, they usually complain about something, right? Like it's like that something's wrong. But they think if they leave, it's kind of like all those issues going away, and but it's not. It's just like I think it's just you take like the full responsibility for your life on your own, because like when you're complaining, you just like give your agency to your employer, your boss, like you kind of like you put this that not you're responsible for your life, but somebody else, and they make a reason. Well, when you're on your own, there's nobody like to blame. It's you. It's either you can make it or it's not, and it's just like I think it's a really good exercise, but I don't think it's for everyone. I see people like it's just like mentally you should be really, really, really strong. It's just like and it's either you can make it or you can become stronger, or like you just like you can do this, and it's just it's I think, and you need to change like these things that I don't know. I've never thought like to go back like to kind of full time job like after a certain time. I know like I need to continue whatever it takes.
Make or break. I was waiting for that mental resilience. If you're mentally weak, it will break you definitely. But I'm glad you found that mental strength to ride the wave. You know, in life we have the peaks, we have the troughs. And when you have the troughs, you need that mental resilience, mental strength to ride it out. So for most business owners, they avoid the hard money talks until it's too late, like you rightly said. So how can this shift, from fear to financial confidence?
Yeah, I think it's just like I think because I've seen like so many times when like founders like they don't make like a right decision, especially when it's hard, and like they kind of postpone the hard decisions or they make like the wrong decisions. Kind of like I feel confident that okay, it's time for me to step in and kind of like explain them like what they need to do, otherwise it's gonna be like horrible consequences of this. And yeah, and I think especially it's different from first time founders, business owners, and like second time, third time. It's kind of like they already went from this. They know it's like in cycles, and I think it's important to understand that it's kind of like it's gonna be black and white, right? Like even like not even in startup world, it's just like in a business normal. It's kind of like yeah, it's good one day, and then it's like I don't know, like a horrible 2 months of the business. But as you go through this, like I think you get more skills and more emotional kind of like you can get for this. And I would tell not really emotionally, not too much attached to the results right now.
Mm.
It's just like thinking about like long term. It's just like yeah, don't let like those swings of emotions like lead you to the wrong decision, especially business decisions. It's just yeah, it's kind of I think like two emotional people for them it would be really, really hard like to run a business. Like they need to manage like those cycles, right? Otherwise it's gonna be I don't know, they have a sales call and it's went totally wrong, they lost these potential clients and it can ruin their day or I don't know their week. They need kind of like get used to this. It's part of the process and you just need go through this, right? And yeah.
Mm. So we are going to end this session with a quick fire round. So you are going to have a few questions, five of them. So just be real, relatable, and reflective. Uh, are
Mhm.
you ready? Are you ready to rumble?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Let us go. You know, we've got really great fighters out of Moscow. Russia is known for the great fighters. Khabib Nurmagomedov. He says,
Yeah.
Russia 150 million, Irish 6 million. Don't try this tomorrow. I'm gonna smash your guy. By the way, do you watch MMA at all?
Yeah, I'm just watching like no briefly. And I don't really follow it. Yeah,
Okay, okay, yeah, but you guys have got great fighters. Khabib,
yeah,
you've got Volkov, Alexander Volkov. You've got like
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
those
Yeah, there's
really
a
good
lot of
guys.
them. Yeah,
Movsar Evloev as well. Yeah,
yeah,
he's a great guy.
yeah,
He's a great guy.
yeah.
Wow. So, number one financial ratio every founder should understand today.
Financial, just check the fundamentals, check your accounting, understand like what is happening. Just check if your accountant or yourself, like where you're right now in terms of financials.
Okay. A personal money mistake you learned the most from.
The most I learned from trust your instincts and don't make business with people you don't really trust and don't really like you can forecast their behavior. You know it can be bad.
Nice, nice, nice. I love that. So, this is a hard one. Austin or Moscow? Yes, the better food and better finance vibe.
Uh, I don't know.
Mm.
I think it's better. Yeah, Weston is growing.
Whoa, don't go back to Moscow. Okay, so what's one book or thinker that shaped your money mindset?
There's a book by Munger. I forgot the name. Yeah, but it's a really good one. Another one is Never Enough. And it's a Lawkinson, and yeah, it's also really, really, really good. It's like it's telling about like this mentality that like it's never enough. It's just like even like rich people, they kind of like I know they have like a gorgeous house at like 10 million and they still think it's not enough because their neighbor have this like 50 million mansion and compared with them they feel like I don't know poor and kind of like not really realize they potential and I think it's kind of it's and I think it illustrates really good if you can enjoy your coffee in the morning you can enjoy your yacht, right? It's just like it's gonna be the same kind of like resentment.
So, fill in the blank. An entrepreneur is successful when they dash.
When successful when?
Yeah, like when they do what? What
When?
does what does an entrepreneur have to do to be successful?
What he needs
What's
to be
that one
successful?
thing?
I think like just to enjoy what he's doing. I think it's the most important part. I see business owners sometimes forget why they're doing it, and of course, like the money is a big kind of like thing. But I think like most, especially up to after a certain level, it's just like I don't think it's about money, and you need to enjoy it. And I think like a lot of founders really forget how to enjoy doing business, and so like they kind of like always in stress about certain things.
Interesting. So I'm very big on gratitude, and I always say that gratitude is good attitude. And the SI unit for measuring life is time. So if somebody shares their life, their time with you, they're sharing their life with you. Of course, thank you very much, for sharing your time and your life with us today on the podcast. I know you have a website, right? So
Yeah,
if you're a founder out there, you're looking to finally understand your numbers and stop losing sleep over cash, check out Stan's expert guidance at thesoso.com, right?
yeah,
Slash
yeah,
get started and get
yeah,
clear on your path forward. So
yeah.
how else can our viewers connect with you?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter. So on LinkedIn it's Stan Sukhinian, and on Twitter, yeah, you can find me, and I write every day with
Oh, wow,
tips.
on Twitter,
Yeah,
that's X now, x.com, right? Is that correct?
yeah. For me, it's still Twitter. Yeah, for me, it's still Twitter.
So, do you want to leave a shout out for anybody before you leave? I think I follow you on LinkedIn, so yeah, we can collaborate. Are you on Instagram at all?
No, yeah, I have Instagram, but I'm not really active. So I'm
Okay,
posting things. Yeah, I'm posting every day on X and LinkedIn.
okay. Okay, we'll collaborate on X and LinkedIn then. So, do you want to say a shout out to anybody before you leave?
Yeah, I think it's a great. Just yeah, let me know if there's anything that I can help. So just yeah, it's like it's never matter what stage you are, like what you want. Like you're just like thinking to start your own business, or like I don't know, you kind of like in the middle of something, or like considering something. It's just like feel free to reach out to me, and I'm like I would love to help.
Hey, thank you very much. It's lovely having, selfless human beings like you who love to help. And of course, love and respect to you. Thank you very much for your time on the show today. And for our viewers, please like, subscribe, support, join the channel. And of course, I'll keep working tirelessly to bring in fantastic individuals like Stan to make the show stand. Let us go. Bye.
Yeah, thank you.